Hello, and so this is probably going to be the saddest video I will make in my lifetime. If you know me personally, then you either already know or you have a vague idea of what's going on. This video is going to be explaining what's happened to me over the last 6-7 months and kind of giving my views on BPD versus parenting, as the title says. I was diagnosed with emotionally unstable personality disorder in May 2018, I think. It's not it's not an easy diagnosis to be given, especially when you're not expecting it. It really kind of, it hits hard, but at the same time it kind of gives you something to work towards. You now kind of know what's going on and you're able to get the help that you need. That's how I viewed it anyway. This isn't going to be why people with BPD shouldn't have children. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The stigma around BPD as a whole is genuinely quite heartbreaking. And it gets worse the more you dive into different topics such as parenting. Over the last 6 months, as you'll understand as we go through this video, I've done a lot of research, especially on BPD, and it's not nice. A lot of it is hurtful, and while I encourage people to do their research, I would be careful on where you look, because you can find some really nasty things and it's not beneficial for anyone, sorry. So to give you kind of like an outline of things, so you understand where my mental health is at. We'll start in October, towards the end. I think it was like the last week of October. A family member of mine was taken into hospital under the thoughts that he had gallstones, and it turned out that he has stage 4 lung cancer, which of course it's not something you ever want to hear. So we had that to deal with, first of all. A couple of months prior to this, I'd broken up with the father to my son, who I was with for 2 years. So it's kind of been, 2019 wasn't a nice year for anyone, I don't think. But it was especially bad towards the end of the year. So fast forward to November 1st. It was just a normal day, and I'm not going to mention names for privacy and legal reasons, but me, my daughter and my son came downstairs. Normal day. My daughter was going to her grandma's that weekend, and so I got her ready and off she went to her grandma's at like 10 AM I think. So me and my son played for a bit, and then he went up for a nap. This was a Friday, so my sister was coming to stay with me for the weekend, and we were going to go out on the Friday night. So it gets to about 1 o'clock, and I put my son up for his nap, and shortly after my sister arrived, and then I'd say about 2 o'clock, my son woke up. So I go upstairs and I get him, bring him down and hand him to my sister so she can say hello. Like, you know, my sister's away at uni, so she doesn't get to see the kids that often. It was all fine. So my son was due a bottle, so I went and put him down in the living room, turned my back to go and get my coffee and his bottle, which had to be made. And within, I wouldn't even say 2 minutes, me and my sister heard him at the bottom of the stairs screaming, like crying. So obviously we've both got up and ran like straight away to him, and it's obvious that he's fallen down the stairs, because for some reason I still couldn't tell you to this day, but I didn't put the pram in front of the stair that day, and it will easily be the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. When I say make sure you have stair gates in place, I'm telling you, make sure you have stair gates in place, because it could ruin your life. And I don't say that lightly. So I checked my son over, and he seems fine. After the initial shock wore off, he went back to his usual self. I stepped outside to go and smoke, came back in, and he was laughing and joking with my sister. I checked him over again, just to make sure, before I gave him his bottle, and I texted his dad to let his dad know, because he was staying with him for the weekend, and I basically just said, you know, keep an eye on him for 24 hours, make sure, you know, everything's good, and yeah. I'd say my son was with me for about 25 minutes, and then his dad came to pick him up. So his dad picked him up. There was no confrontation. I remember very clearly, he said, children fall all the time, like, no worries. So me and my sister go about doing whatever we were doing, having food, preparing to get ready to go out, and it reaches 7 p.m. and I get a missed call from this number that I don't recognise, and they've left a voicemail. So I listen to the voicemail, and it's social services who were at James Cook Hospital. So of course, immediately I ring them back, and I'm told that my son is in hospital with a skull fracture, and that they need me and my daughter to go to the hospital immediately so that my daughter can be checked over. So I ring my daughter's grandmother, and I'm just like, look, this has happened, we need to go to the hospital now. So we get to the hospital, and they check my daughter over, everything is fine. And I still haven't seen my son at this point. But, you know, we were sat waiting and waiting, and then the police turned up. And I get questioned a lot. They tell me that neither of my children are allowed to stay with me until this is sorted, and that they would need my keys because my house was now considered a crime scene. So it's been about 2 hours at this point. I say goodbye to my daughter, which is one of the hardest things I've had to do, knowing that she's not coming home. And I'm finally told that I can go and see my son. So I go upstairs with the police and my sister, and I'm told to wait outside of this room where my son's father and other family of his are in the room laughing and joking, and I'm outside. I don't think there are words to describe how I felt that night. It was like my world had just fallen apart times 2,000. I was being accused of abusing my children. And if you know me, you know that I love my children more than anything in this world, and that I would never intentionally hurt them. So I get to see Logan. Social services are in there, and I hold him and I apologise, because if I had just put the pram there, we wouldn't be in this situation. And you know, he's being himself. He's happy, he's smiling, as he always did. He never gave me reason to think that there was something wrong with him. So I go home with the police and my sister. We're told to grab a few things and wait outside while they took photos of my house. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that we were planning on going out that weekend. So there was a bottle of vodka in my room, there was an ashtray, and some scissors, I think, for me cutting my hair. And of course the police took photos of all of that. They checked my fridge, which was pretty empty. Took photos of that, said I had no food in. And yeah, I went to stay with a friend. Me and my sister went to stay with a friend, and I gave the police my keys. So the next day, I wake up and I'm downstairs in my friend's house, and another police officer turns up, and they say that they want my phone for evidence, to see if what I've said checks out. So of course I hand it over, no problem. And yeah, about 10 minutes later they gave me my keys back. They came back and gave me my keys. And yeah, after that it was 6 months of long court days. I was allowed to see my children to begin with for an hour and a half, which, if you have 2 kids, you know is, even if you have 1 kid, like, you know an hour and a half is nothing. That was 3 times a week, I think. And then, like, so for like the next 6 months it was kind of that. Eventually it got increased to 2 hours, and then it was the most recent time it was 4 hours on a Sunday and 2 hours on a day during the week. The 4 hours was the hardest, because it almost felt like things were normal again and that I had my children back, and then of course I had to leave. And if you have children, you know. I told myself I wasn't going to cry in this video. So last week, I think it was, or the week before, I got the social services final evidence and their report, and long story short, it basically said that due to my mental health, they didn't think I was fit enough to parent my children. If anything, my children would be at risk of emotional harm and becoming my carers. And if you know me, you know that that is anything but the truth. My children always have and always will come first, and I cannot tell you how soul destroying it is to read in black and white that you are not fit enough to look after your children on a basis of mental health. That hadn't been a concern until November last year. They're trying to give me 4 hours a week. The opposing parties don't think that that's going to work. They think that's too much. And of course, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not only seeing my kids for 4 hours a week. It's not happening. So I spoke to my solicitor and she was basically like, look, you've got 3 options. First one is you challenge social services and their evidence, which I really wanted to do, but I was advised that the risk is higher than the benefit, and that it wasn't really worth my time. To use her exact words, it would be like burying myself. The second option was to just agree to the order, that my children remain where they are and that I see them whenever we agree to. And the third one was to agree to the order but discuss the agreement. So like I said, like I'm not accepting 4 hours. So I told them that. I was like, no. And I also, because I forgot to mention this, but my contact with my children is still supervised. Despite for the last 6 months me bending over backwards to do everything and more for them, the social services and anyone else involved. So I said that I wanted like a review in 3 to 6 months, in the hope that I will be allowed to spend some time with my children on my own as I am their mother. So moving forward, obviously given the current circumstances, there's not much I can do at the moment. I have to move house, which I didn't really want to do. You know, this is mine and my children's home. I didn't want to leave, but unfortunately I can't afford to live here. But with moving, I'll be closer to family, which of course is a good thing. And it's a fresh start. I have the chance to work on my mental health and to prove to everyone who has made me out to be the most vile person in the entire world that they are wrong. So very wrong, and when that day comes, let me tell you, I will be the first one to be celebrating. If anyone is to take anything from this, my advice would be careful who you let into your life, because you can be with someone for a very long time and they can rip everything from you within seconds without even thinking about it. And that terrifies me. But in the same breath, it makes me have people work more to be in my life. If you really want to be in my life, you're going to work for it, and you're going to show me that you're not going to ruin my life. If you're a parent and you're mentally ill, I suggest, if you can, get help in place, because again, one day it could turn around and destroy everything. For people with BPD and parents with BPD, learn to be self-aware. It's not going to happen overnight. It's taken me 2 years, mainly the last 8 months, I'd say. I've really noticed a difference. But if you if you learn how your mind's working and how certain things can trigger you, it's going to benefit you and everyone around you in the long run. If you're having an incredibly hard day, or you can feel a bad mood coming on, kind of getting someone to come in and, I don't know, watch the kids for an hour so you can go and have a bath. Having things like that in place is really important. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And make sure you have safety measures in place. Safety gates, everything. Please, if you haven't got them, go out and get them. As a parent, you need to decide if it will benefit or it will cause more risk. If it's going to benefit your child, please go and get them. And I think that's it. I want to turn this into something positive. I want to do something with it and maybe help someone. Just because I have borderline personality disorder doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad parent. I am a great mum, and my kids know that they're loved. And if the chance ever comes for me to make that change, you can guarantee I will run miles with it. This has been a video that I've needed to make for a while, and I'm glad that I'm in a place where I feel like I can talk about this now. Obviously, I still get upset. It's my children at the end of the day. But I feel like now I can close this chapter and move on to be the best version of me for myself and for my children. And yeah, I hope you got something out of this video. I'm not going to say enjoyment. I may do a video on borderline personality disorder and parenting a bit more. This was kind of just to get my story out there. But if people are interested enough, then I may do a deeper dive and kind of address some of the stigma that is around, especially parents with BPD. If you've made it this far, then you're an absolute saint, and thank you for watching.